The Florida sun was just beginning to dip beneath the trees when Emily Sanchez heard the sirens. She was sitting on a faded park bench, watching her daughter Luna chase butterflies with her stuffed bunny clutched in one hand. The day had been calm, too calm. Emily should have known something was coming. Out of nowhere, black SUVs rolled onto the grass, scattering startled children and shouting parents. Uniformed officers jumped out, shouting commands. And beside them, with fur bristling and teeth, bared, a large German shepherd barked viciously. Emily stood up slowly, heart racing. "What's going on?" she asked, shielding Luna instinctively. "Emily Sanchez, hands where we can see them." An officer barked. Guns were pointed. Luna screamed and dropped her bunny. I'm not doing anything. I have my daughter, please." One officer approached, cuffs in hand. Another held the leash of the police dog, whose name tag read Rex. The canine bared his teeth and suddenly stopped barking. He sniffed the air, lowered his head, and stood still. No one noticed. All eyes were on Emily. She was wrestled to the ground in front of her daughter, face pressed into the dirt. Luna sobbed uncontrollably as her mother was handcuffed. A woman from Child Protective Services, already present at the scene, scooped Luna up. "She'll be safe," the woman muttered as Emily screamed, "Don't take my baby." "I didn't do anything." In the background, Rex quietly sat beside his handler, Officer Raymond Cole, watching it all with alert but subdued eyes. Later that evening, the news ran a short segment. Single mother arrested in drug ring bust. Suspect's daughter taken into custody. The headlines were brutal. They made Emily sound like a criminal mastermind. Reporters snapped photos of her being dragged into a squad car. Dirt on her face, mascara smeared, eyes full of rage and confusion. None of them knew her. None of them cared. Emily sat in the station, still trembling, trying to piece together what had happened. A detective entered the room. "We found enough fentanyl to kill a city block in your storage unit," he said coldly. "You can make this easier on yourself if you tell us who you're working with." "What?" Emily blinked. "I don't even have a key to that unit anymore. Jason, he has it. He's the one who rented that space, not me." "Jason Marks, your boyfriend?" "He's not." She paused. "We're not together anymore. I haven't seen him in weeks." "That's not what the evidence says." Meanwhile, Luna was quiet in her new foster home. She wouldn't eat much, wouldn't speak. She slept with her bunny every night and cried out for her mother in her dreams. "She's not talking," the foster mom told CPS. "She's in shock," the caseworker said. Sometimes kids this age can go silent after trauma. But one night, Luna whispered to her bunny, just loud enough to be overheard. The doggy didn't bark at Mommy. It was such a strange thing to say that it stuck in the foster mother's mind. She repeated it to the caseworker, who wrote it down without much thought. After all, what did a toddler know about drug arrests or trained police dogs? But miles away, Rachel Dean, the overworked and underpaid public defender assigned to Emily's case, read the file. She saw the note. Child reportedly said, "The doggy didn't bark at Mommy." Rachel raised an eyebrow. That one line stayed with her all night. Police dogs, she knew, were trained to alert either by barking, sitting, or scratching when they detected drugs. A silent dog was a red flag. A dog that didn't bark might not have detected anything. She scribbled a note in the margin. Check K9 unit alert records. Because if Rex hadn't alerted, then maybe, just maybe, Emily wasn't guilty. Emily sat in the holding cell, head buried in her arms, as fluorescent lights flickered overhead. The cold steel bench beneath her seemed to drain the warmth from her bones. She replayed the arrest in her mind over and over, the shouting, the confusion, Luna's terrified cries, and the unshakable image of the police dog Rex, watching quietly as she was hauled away. Not barking. Not reacting. 2 days later, Rachel. Dean met Emily for the first time in the coroner interview room of the county jail. Rachel, a sharp-eyed attorney in her early 30s, had seen hundreds of cases like this: single mothers, poverty, missing boyfriends, and police confident they had their suspect. But Emily was different. She didn't plead. She didn't cry. She stared Rachel dead in the eyes and said, "I didn't do it." Rachel studied her carefully. "The police say the drugs were in a storage unit rented in your name. They have fingerprints, text messages from a burner phone, and a police dog alert." Emily's voice was firm. "I haven't been to that unit in weeks. Jason rented it. I let him use it after he lost his job. I didn't know what he put in there. I thought it was furniture and tools." "Who's Jason?" "My ex-boyfriend. He vanished 2 weeks ago. Stopped answering calls." Rachel scribbled notes as Emily spoke. Then she said, "Do you remember anything about the arrest? Anything unusual?" Emily hesitated, then said, "The dog, Rex. He barked when he arrived. But when he came near me, he just stopped. Didn't react at all. Like he didn't smell anything." Rachel's pen froze. Later that night, Rachel sat in her cramped apartment office, poring over Rex's training history, which she'd requested from the precinct. The files were thick, hundreds of pages of logs, certifications, handler notes, and court testimony. Officer Raymond Cole had handled Rex for 3 years. His record was considered exemplary, with over 40 arrests aided by the K-9 unit. But Rachel noticed a pattern. In 3 prior cases, defense attorneys had questioned Rex's alert signals, claiming the dog reacted only after Officer Cole gestured or touched his leash in subtle ways. None of those challenges had succeeded. Until now, no one had enough evidence. She turned to the arrest report from Emily's case. Nowhere in the body cam transcripts was there any mention of Rex alerting during the search. There was only a vague statement: K-9 unit assisted in search and positively identified narcotics. Vague. Too vague. Rachel leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. Why would a toddler remember the dog didn't bark? She whispered, "Because it mattered." Meanwhile, in the foster home, Luna sat quietly in a chair during dinner. The television was on in the background, and a news segment about Emily's case played again. Her foster mother noticed the little girl's gaze fixate on the TV when Rex appeared. Luna reached for her stuffed bunny and murmured, "He was nice. He didn't growl at Mommy." The woman paused, watching her carefully. "Do you remember what happened that day?" she asked softly. Luna nodded, but didn't speak further. That night, the woman sent an email to the CPS caseworker, who passed it on to Rachel. In the courthouse, the prosecution built their case with brutal precision. Photos of the drugs, fingerprints. On the bag, the burner phone linked to Emily's account. Rachel knew public opinion was against them. A single mother with ties to a runaway boyfriend? She was already judged, but Rachel had something powerful on her side. Doubt. Not just legal doubt, but emotional doubt, too. She filed a motion to bring Rex into the courtroom for a live demonstration during the trial. A risky move, but one that could tip the scales. "Let the dog tell the truth," she said. And the judge agreed. The courthouse was packed. Emily's trial had attracted more media attention than anyone expected. Reporters filled the benches, whispering behind notepads. A single mother accused of drug trafficking was already compelling, but throw in a viral clip of a toddler murmuring about a police dog, and suddenly the whole country was watching. Emily sat silently at the defense table, eyes hollow, wrists chained to the chair. Her orange jumpsuit looked far too large for her narrow frame. She hadn't slept in days, not knowing where Luna was, or if she'd be allowed to see her after the trial. She didn't even know if anyone believed her anymore. Except maybe Rachel stood confidently, flipping through her notes as the judge entered. She wore a calm mask, but her stomach churned. This was the day Rex would enter the courtroom. She needed everything to go perfectly on the other side of the room. Officer Raymond Cole adjusted Rex's leash. The dog looked calm, almost bored, his ears alert but relaxed. Unlike his handler, Rex didn't seem nervous. "All rise," the bailiff announced. The judge took his seat, gave a brief nod, and said, "Let's proceed." The prosecution opened strong. Photos of the drugs, fingerprints on the duffel bag, burned text logs traced to Emily's phone account. A witness claimed to have seen her with Jason near the storage facility 2 weeks before the bus stop. It painted a convincing picture. Emily wasn't just connected, she was involved. The jury listened closely, several nodding along. Rachel didn't flinch. She let them have their moment. Then she calmly stood and said, "Your Honor, the defense would like to demonstrate the reliability of the K-9 alert process using the same dog involved in the arrest Rex." The prosecutor rolled his eyes. "Objection. The dog has no bearing." The judge raised his hand. Overruled. "Let's see the demonstration." Officer Cole brought Rex to the center of the courtroom. Rachel had prepared a line of 5 identical boxes, only one containing a legal but pungent training substance used to test drug-sniffing canine South. The entire courtroom held its breath as Rex approached the boxes. He sniffed each carefully. When he reached the 3rd box, he sat and placed one paw forward, an official alert signal. "Good boy," Officer Cole said, but Rachel wasn't satisfied. She turned to the officer. "Can you confirm that Rex uses sitting as his only alert method?" "Yes." "Did he sit during Emily Sanchez's arrest?" Cole hesitated. He barked." "You're under oath, officer." There was a long pause. He growled, then he sat. Rachel nodded. "So there was a definitive alert?" "Yes." Rachel clicked her pen. "No bark. No bark." She turned to the judge. "Your Honor, we have body cam footage that shows Rex did not bark, sit, or react. He simply stood beside Officer Cole and watched the scene." The prosecution's only reference to an alert was based on assumption, not behavior. And yet, this dog's reaction or lack of one was the foundation for the search. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. The judge blinked slowly. "Continue." Suddenly, a quiet voice interrupted from the gallery. "Doggy didn't bark." Everyone turned. Luna had been brought into the room, just for observation, under CPS supervision. The plan was not for her to testify just to be present. She stood near her foster mother, pointing softly at Rex. Rachel froze. This wasn't scripted. It wasn't planned. Luna walked forward a few hesitant steps. Her foster mom rose to stop her, but the judge held up a hand. "Let her." The entire room watched as the 3-year-old approached Rex, who didn't move. She crouched, touched his fur gently, and whispered, "You were scared too, weren't you? You didn't want to bark at Mommy." The room fell completely silent. Even the judge leaned forward, visibly shaken. Rex licked Luna's hand and lay down. Beside her. No growling, no barking, just stillness. The moment didn't need explanation. It spoke louder than any testimony could. Rachel turned back to the judge. "Your Honor, I believe the dog has made his point." Emily, for the first time in weeks, allowed herself to hope that the silence in the courtroom lingered like a held breath, thick, fragile, and strangely holy. No one moved. No one dared speak. Even the judge remained still, hands frozen midair above. The bench. Little Luna stayed by Rex's side, gently stroking his fur as if they'd been friends forever. The dog, a trained law enforcement animal, had just broken every expectation of the prosecution's argument. He had not reacted aggressively. He had not barked. He had not treated the child or her mother as threats. Instead, he had responded like something else entirely. A witness, and his testimony, it seemed, had already been given. Rachel Dean watched with sharp, quiet focus. She didn't interrupt. She didn't need to. This moment, raw and unscripted, spoke volumes. A child who had barely said a word in days had just connected the one undeniable fact Rachel had been chasing. The dog had never truly alerted. The bailiff finally stepped forward cautiously and guided Luna back to her foster parent. The judge cleared his throat, visibly rattled. "We will recess until after lunch," he said gruffly. "Court is adjourned for now." The gavel struck once, but the sound felt small in the wake of what had just occurred. Rachel moved quickly. The rest of the courtroom emptied. She filed a formal motion requesting all K-9 activity reports from Officer Cole's previous cases, especially ones involving Rex. She also motioned to suppress the initial search that led to Emily's arrest, arguing the search had been unlawful based on a false or non-existent alert. The judge granted the request without hesitation. Luna's words, simple as they were, had cracked the foundation of the prosecution's case wide open. Outside the courtroom, cameras flashed as Rachel exited. Reporters swarmed her. "Ms. Dean, what was your reaction to the child's statement?" "Will you be calling the dog as a formal witness?" Rachel gave a tired smile. "I don't think I have to. He already spoke louder than anyone." That evening, the video clip hit the internet. A 3-year-old child gently placing her hand on a police dog and saying, "You didn't want to bark at Mommy." It went viral in under 2 hours. News outlets replayed the footage with dramatic headlines. "Toddler's words shake courtroom. Dog's silence stuns jury in drug case. Is this dog a hero or a liar?" Emily had no idea what was happening outside her jail cell. She didn't know the world was watching. All she knew was the tightness in her chest had loosened for the first time in weeks. Rachel visited her later that evening. "I think things are finally turning around," she said, setting down a folder. Emily's eyes flicked up. "Because of Luna?" Rachel nodded. "Your daughter reminded a room full of adults how to listen." Emily choked back a sob. "I just want to go home. I just want her back." "You will," Rachel said. "But first we finish this." The next day, in court, Rachel presented Rex's full history. It wasn't as flawless as the prosecution claimed. 3 false alerts, 2 arrests that were overturned, and 1 complaint still under internal investigation, all connected to the same handler, Officer Cole. When Rachel called Cole to the stand, he looked uneasy. "Officer Cole," she began, "did Rex alert during Emily Sanchez's arrest?" He paused. "I believed he did. That's not what I asked." Cole hesitated. "No, he didn't officially alert." "Then why did you proceed with the search?" I was under pressure. We had a tip. I thought he would alert. But he didn't. No. And yet, based on that assumption, a mother was separated from her child. Isn't that right?" Cole didn't respond. His silence was answer enough. By the end of the day, Rachel's motion to suppress the search was officially under review. The judge admitted that, had Luna not spoken, the court might never have questioned Rex's role. Emily was escorted back to holding, but this time, she allowed herself to smile. Something had changed. Luna's words hadn't just silenced the courtroom. They had spoken a truth no one else dared to say. The next morning, Rachel sat at her desk, coffee cold, eyes burning from lack of sleep. Luna's words and Rex's quiet demeanor had cracked the case wide open. But Rachel knew public perception wasn't enough. She needed hard evidence. She needed to do what law enforcement hadn't: actually investigate. She pulled up the access logs for the storage unit where the drugs were found. Every entry, every timestamp. A name caught her attention: Jason Marks. There it was, the same man Emily swore had disappeared. According to the digital log, he had entered the unit alone just 2 days before the bust. Rachel's breath caught. Why didn't they check this? She thought bitterly. It had been there the whole time. Quickly, she requested surveillance footage from the facility. Within hours, a grainy video file arrived in her inbox. She hit play. There he was, Jason, lean, unshaven, pacing nervously. He opened the storage unit, struggled with something heavy, and left after 20 minutes. Emily never appeared. Not once. Rachel immediately contacted the judge to request an emergency evidentiary hearing. She needed that footage admitted. She needed the jury to see with their own eyes what the system had ignored. Meanwhile, Luna played with blocks on the Foster home carpet. She hummed softly a melody her mother used to sing at bedtime. Something had shifted in her. She was more vocal now, less afraid. The moment in the courtroom had lifted some invisible weight off her small shoulders. Her foster mother watched her closely and said gently, "Would you like to see Mommy again?" Luna nodded. "Can Rex come too?" Back in court, Rachel presented the footage during the emergency hearing. The courtroom lights dimmed as the video played on the screen. Jason Marks entering the unit. Alone. Not once. Not twice. 3 separate times. No Emily. No proof she'd even been near the facility in weeks. The jury leaned in. Some exchanged surprised glances. "Ladies and gentlemen," Rachel said softly, "the prosecution built their entire case on circumstantial evidence and a dog's behavior that never actually occurred. But here's something that did happen. Jason Marks, the real suspect, using the storage unit behind Emily's back. You've just watched it yourselves." The prosecutor stood, but his objections were weak, unconvincing. He had no counter-evidence, no defense. Worse still, Jason Marks had not been seen or heard from since Emily's arrest. No phone records, no address, no alibi. Where is he now? The judge asked sharply. "We're searching," the prosecutor admitted. The judge raised a brow. "You had months." By that afternoon, national interest surged. #Justice for Emily began trending. People were outraged that no one had checked the footage earlier. News anchors debated police procedures. Canine training methods were put under a microscope. But for Emily, still in her orange jumpsuit, everything remained personal. That night, Rachel visited her again. "I have something," she said, laying a printed photo of Jason entering the unit. On the table, Emily stared at it for a long moment, hand trembling. "That's him. That's the day he told me he was going to fix things. I begged him to get help." "I didn't know." "You don't have to explain anymore," Rachel said softly. "This photo says enough." 2 days later, a break in the case. Authorities tracked Jason Marks to Georgia, where he was arrested outside a cheap motel. He was found carrying a fake ID, several burner phones, and a small stash of pills. Under interrogation, it didn't take long for him to crack. He confessed. He admitted to using Emily's storage unit without her knowledge. He'd needed somewhere to hide the stash while staying off the radar. Emily never knew. He'd even planted some of her old mail inside the unit to create the illusion of her involvement. The confession hit the courtroom like a lightning bolt. Rachel presented the transcript the very next morning. The judge read the papers carefully, expression unreadable. Then he looked at Emily. "I see no legal grounds to continue this prosecution. All charges are dropped effective immediately." The courtroom erupted. Tears streamed down Emily's cheeks. Her knees gave out, and Rachel caught her before she hit the floor. Free. After weeks of isolation, accusation, and fear, she was finally free. But her next words were quiet, almost too soft to hear. "Where's my baby?" Rachel smiled, eyes shining. She's waiting. The morning sunlight bled through the courthouse windows as Emily stood quietly beside Rachel. Her wrists, finally free of handcuffs, still bore the faint red lines where the metal had bitten into her skin. The judge's words echoed in her head. All charges are dropped. But even as freedom settled over her like a fragile blanket, Emily didn't feel whole. Not yet. Not without Luna. Meanwhile, across the state line, Jason Marks sat slumped. In an interrogation room in Georgia, his once cocky attitude had melted under hours of questioning. Exhausted and cornered, he confessed to everything. "I used the unit without her knowing," he muttered. "She thought I was storing construction gear. She didn't know about the pills. I left some of her things there to make it look like hers, just in case." "Why?" the detective asked. "Because I knew I'd get caught. I figured if someone had to take the fall, better her than me." It was a coward's confession, but it was all Rachel needed. By the time the court clerk read the official transcript in Florida, the courtroom was packed again. Word had spread that Jason's confession had been verified. For Emily, it meant vindication. For Rachel, it meant something more, proof that sometimes justice needed help. And this time, it came from the smallest voice in the room. After court, Emily stood outside, blinking at the brightness. For the first time in weeks, there was no barbed wire in sight. Rachel appeared beside her, holding a phone. "She's waiting," she said. Emily didn't say a word. She just got in the car. Luna stood in the foster home driveway, stuffed bunny tucked under one arm. The social worker kneeled beside her. "You ready to see Mommy?" Luna didn't answer. She just looked toward the road. The car pulled up slowly. The door opened. And then nothing. No screaming, no running. Just quiet. Emily stepped out, her face etched with exhaustion and hope. Luna took a few small steps, paused, then ran into her mother's arms. Emily dropped to her knees, hugging her daughter tighter than she'd ever hugged anything in her life. "I missed you so much," she whispered into Luna's hair. "I missed you every second." Luna didn't say much. She didn't need to. She just nestled her head against Emily's chest and whispered, "I told the dog." Emily's heart broke and healed all at once. That same week, Officer Raymond Cole sat in a disciplinary hearing. The K-9 unit's conduct was under investigation. Footage showed that Rex had not exhibited proper alert behavior during Emily's arrest. Worse, Officer Cole's history showed a pattern of vague, undocumented alerts, some even challenged in prior cases. "I didn't mean to ruin anyone's life," he said quietly. "But you did," one board member replied. Cole was given a choice: face dismissal or resign with dignity. He chose the latter. 2 weeks later, he visited Rex, now officially retired, and signed adoption papers, ensuring the dog would live out his days in peace. Rachel, meanwhile, found herself flooded with interview requests. National outlets wanted to hear about the lawyer who listened to a toddler, but she turned most of them down. She knew the real story wasn't about her. It was about a mother, a child, a dog, and the truth that nearly slipped through the cracks. Still, she agreed to one interview. On live television, the host asked, "How did you know the little girl was right?" Rachel smiled, because she wasn't trying to win. She wasn't trying to lie. She was just remembering. And sometimes, remembering is the bravest thing a person can do. Weeks passed. Emily and Luna began healing. Slowly. Luna had nightmares for a while, dreams where men with loud voices took Mommy away. But Emily was there to hold her, to remind her that she was safe. Emily found work at a local women's center. Rachel helped her get back on her feet. Together, they even started a small campaign, K-9 Truth, advocating for reform in how police dogs are trained and used in criminal investigations. And Rex? He lived with Officer Cole on a quiet piece of land. No more chasing suspects. No more courtrooms. Just long walks, warm days, and peace. 6 months had passed since the courtroom fell silent at a toddler's voice. For many, it was just another strange case in the news cycle. An innocent woman cleared, a fugitive caught, and a police dog who didn't bark. But for Emily and Luna, those 6 months had been a slow and sacred rebuilding. Their new apartment wasn't fancy, just a one-bedroom in a quiet corner of town, but it had warmth, and more importantly, it had peace. Luna's room was covered in stars and glow-in-the-dark stickers, and her bunny, though fraying at the seams, still slept beside her every night. Emily had found a job working at a non-profit women's center. She wasn't just answering phones, she was speaking at shelters, mentoring mothers who were facing charges or had lost custody. Her story gave others hope. And people listened. They listened because Emily didn't cry when she spoke. She didn't dramatize her arrest. She simply told the truth. How she was accused without being heard. How her daughter had seen something no adult did. And how a police dog, trained to detect lies and drugs, told the truth by doing nothing at all. Meanwhile, Rachel Dean's reputation soared. Legal organizations reached out to her. Law students emailed asking for guidance. She was offered positions in bigger cities, higher salaries, even TV commentary contracts. She turned them all down. Rachel stayed where she was, choosing to launch her own justice initiative, Second Truth. It focused on flawed arrests, particularly those influenced by K-9 units. She partnered with other defense attorneys and began to push legislation that demanded video evidence of all K-9 alerts used as probable cause. And the cornerstone of her campaign? Emily and Luna. Their case was now cited in legal seminars. The clip of Luna whispering to Rex had become part of training modules in at least 4 states. Some departments, under public pressure, were reviewing their K-9 protocols. Rachel didn't care about fame. She cared that laws were beginning to change. As for Rex, the retired K-9, he had traded patrols for grassy fields. He lived with Officer Cole, who had quietly stepped away from policing after resigning. The once decorated handler had been humbled. His pride broken, but his conscience awakened. He now volunteered at a program that trained dogs to work in therapy and trauma support. Rex, surprisingly, took to it immediately. The same dog who once sniffed out narcotics now comforted children at hospitals and survivors at shelters. Sometimes people asked if he could still detect drugs. Cole would smile and say, "That's not what he's good at anymore." One afternoon, Emily received a formal invitation in the mail. It was from a documentary producer in New York. The Dog Who Didn't Bark. A mother, a toddler, and a courtroom's wake-up call. They wanted her and Luna to attend a premiere screening at a film festival. Rachel would be speaking, and Rex would be appearing, yes, in person. Emily hesitated. It wasn't the cameras that worried her, it was the reopening of wounds. But Luna surprised her by saying, "Can I go see Rex again?" Emily smiled, heart full. "Of course we can." At the event, Luna wore a small blue dress and clutched her bunny. Reporters swung them, but she didn't flinch. When Rex appeared on stage beside Officer Cole, Luna lit up. She walked up gently, knelt, and hugged him. "Hi again," she said. Audience watched silently as the dog rested his head in her lap. Rachel took the stage, looking out over the crowd. "Sometimes," she said, "the truth doesn't shout. Sometimes it doesn't even bark. But it's still they're waiting for. Someone brave enough to see it?" The crowd rose in applause. Emily stood, holding Luna's hand. A new chapter had begun. The lights dimmed as the credits rolled on The Dog Who Didn't Bark. Soft piano music played over images of the courtroom, the grainy footage of Jason Marks, the news clips, And finally, a still shot of Luna kneeling beside Rex, her tiny arms wrapped around his neck. The audience at the festival was silent for a moment, before rising to their feet in a wave of applause. Some wiped tears. Others clapped until their palms turned red. But everyone felt it, the weight of what they had just seen. Not just a miscarriage of justice, but a miracle that stopped it. Emily stood in the back, holding Luna close, her eyes glossy but proud. For years, she'd lived with a sense of powerlessness. Now, she felt her voice amplified, heard, even honored. Rachel joined them, handing Luna a small flower crown made by a fan. "She's the face of change," Rachel whispered. Emily smiled. "She's always been that? We just didn't know yet?" In the weeks that followed, the documentary went viral. Streaming platforms picked it up. National discussions erupted around the use of canine units in policing. Investigative reports exposed hundreds of cases where alerts had gone unverified. Or worse, fabricated. State legislatures began to act. Florida became the first to pass Luna's law, requiring all canine alerts used in drug arrests to be corroborated by video evidence and handled by a second neutral handler. The law also introduced mandatory annual recertifications for all police dogs and harsher penalties for false reporting. Other states soon followed. For Luna, however, none of that really mattered. She was just a child who wanted bedtime stories, warm pancakes, and her mom's hugs. She didn't know she'd changed the country. She only knew that when she'd spoken, someone had listened. And that changed her forever. Rex's story, too, took on new life. He was now a certified therapy dog and spent much of his time visiting schools, foster homes, and trauma centers. Children who were afraid to talk to adults opened up to Rex. Some even whispered secrets into his ear, just like Luna had one morning. During a school visit, a boy in foster care leaned close to Rex and said, "My dad didn't mean to hurt me. He just needs help." The counselor beside him blinked in shock. The boy had been silent for months. That day, Rex did more than comfort. He helped another truth come out. Rachel's Second Truth initiative became a nationwide network. It wasn't about winning flashy cases. It was about the quiet work. The overlooked evidence. The wrongfully accused who never had a Luna to speak up for them. In her office, Rachel kept a framed photo of that courtroom moment. Luna standing beside Rex, her hand on his paw. Beneath it, engraved on a metal plate, were the words, "Truth doesn't always bark, but it never lies." One evening, back at home, Emily tucked Luna into bed. They had just finished reading a story about a brave girl and a wolf that guarded a secret forest. As she kissed her daughter's forehead, Luna looked up and asked, "Do you think Rex remembers me?" Emily smiled. "I think he'll always remember you. You're the girl who listened to him when no one else did." Luna yawned, pulling the blanket up to her chin. "Mommy?" "Yes, baby? Can we visit him again?" Emily brushed back Luna's hair and whispered, "Yes, as many times as you want." Outside the window, the stars glimmered softly. Somewhere, far away, a dog rested in peaceful sleep. No sirens, no loud commands. Just quiet, just like the courtroom had gone silent that day. Not out of fear, but out of truth, finally being heard. And in that silence, lives were changed forever. The end.